So, it's been no secret that I'm a big fan of 8BitDo's controllers. I'm a big fan of that retro aesthetic, but more importantly, I'm a big fan of that classic D-pad feel and the D-pad placement. I also like these little portable emulators. Well, lucky me, I guess, because PocketGo has made the S30 game console. It was supposedly designed by the guy who designs 8BitDo controllers. Either he doesn't have it in his portfolio or I've got the wrong guy. But anyway, at just $60, this should be the perfect crossroads between my favorite controller and portable emulator, right? The only thing that could possibly go wrong is the software getting in the way or the overall performance of the emulators, but that wouldn't happen, right? Well, that's not exactly the idea I had in my head, but it's perfect. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. Explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity, and it's less than $10 a month for an annual subscription. Skillshare has courses ranging from graphic design, animation, creative writing, marketing, music, and even photography, like, for example, DIY product photography, Style and Shoot Creative Stills by Mango Street. There are no ads and they're always launching new classes, so there's always something fresh to keep you interested. And you can try it for yourself and see how you like it. Right now, the first 1,000 of you who click the link in the description below will receive a free trial to Skillshare's premium membership so you can explore your creativity. So go ahead and go start learning. I'm great at this. This type of device isn't anything new. The only thing new here is the design and layout of the device. It has very similar innards to devices we've seen before. A quad-core 1.2 GHz A33 CPU, a Mali 400 MP2 GPU, 512 megabytes of RAM, and a 3.5-inch IPS display that's pretty standard on these things, but this one's only 480 by 320. That is, coincidentally, exactly twice the resolution of the Game Boy Advance. But other similar consoles we've covered recently are slightly higher resolution at 640 by 480. On paper, the PocketGo S30 is slightly underpowered in today's rapidly evolving emulator market. But I have to keep reminding myself that this thing's only $60 from Retro Mimi. I'd imagine that they got to that price point by cutting some corners somewhere. The PocketGo S30 can play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, SNES, NES, Genesis, Master System, MAME, PSP, PS1, Dreamcast, and a whole bunch of other crap. It cannot play N64. When it was being developed, they were considering making the device powerful enough to handle N64 games, but that would have increased the price a little bit, so I guess they opted for the cheaper price point. The retro emulator market is pretty saturated right now. It's also very frustrating. None of these emulators are perfect. They all do something wrong that other emulators can do better. Not one of them is perfect. They all have pros and cons. They all have trade-offs to them. The PocketGo S30 was pitched as having a very simple file system, meaning you can get your games on here as easily as just dragging and dropping them from your computer onto the micro SD card. Most other emulators do not let you do this, at least not that easily. You usually have to bend over backwards to get your games onto these things. A lot of other retro emulators run on Linux, and not all computers are capable of reading that file system, at least not with a third-party software that you have to pay for. Fortunately, the PocketGo really is as simple as they say. You just drag your games into the corresponding folders that are all labeled beautifully. They're easy to access and easy to navigate. This is a huge plus for me. I'm a big proponent of a good user experience. It shouldn't be rocket science to just get your games onto one of these things. Unfortunately, that's about where the good user experience ends. It has a nice UI, don't get me wrong. I like how the systems on here are easy to navigate, even if they do have weird, irrelevant art associated with them.
What is that? Who is that?
But the emulators themselves don't run great, which is the whole reason we're here, isn't it? The emulators don't even really have many options if you wanted to fix some of the issues yourself. Even Game Boy Advance, which is usually the best looking and best running emulator on these devices, looks really bad. The screen is the perfect pixel density and aspect ratio for Game Boy Advance. There really isn't any excuse for this to be so terrible looking. There's even horrible screen tearing in NES games. The clock speed is also terrible on NES games by default, but with a little finagling, you can get it to run all right. This device should have more than enough processing power for NES games. Hell, the original BitBoy is like a quarter of the size, and that plays NES games just fine. So, this is all with the stock firmware that the device came with. Very shortly after BitBoy sent me the device, and while the device was still in the mail, they emailed me letting me know that there was a big update that was released, and they implored me to install that update before I made this video. They said that this update fixes a lot of problems that the PocketGo has. Weirdly, this update isn't coming from BitBoy or Retro Mimi. It's coming from YouTuber Retro Gamecore. So, the manufacturer completely failed, and they're relying on a community-made update to cover their tracks or fix their mistakes or however you want to look at it. But Retro Gamecore did a fantastic job. He has a 16-minute tutorial video as well as a written guide. It took me maybe an hour to do. It's not as easy as just plugging in your device and installing a package. There are steps involved. This is like homework. It's simple in that the steps are straightforward and there's no risk in breaking your device. It's not like putting Android on a Switch or anything. It's just annoying to have to do this in the first place. And weird that the company doesn't have its own solution. And even weirder that they didn't just make it optimized out of the gate when they sent it over. Like, why was NES running so fast? Why are the emulators not scaled correctly? When it's all done, there are new emulator cores that weren't there originally. There's Game & Watch, Master System, Sega CD, 32X, and TurboGrafx. There's a new theme that is much easier on the eyes, and using an app called Scraper, you can load your own box art for all of your ROMs. Obviously, this isn't necessary, but it's something that Retro Gamecore walks you through. It's much less of a mess, but this isn't even the important change. The important thing is that Retro Gamecore optimized all of the emulators to run as best as he could get them to run, which I'm sure was no small feat. But I'm not sure what it is. It's still not enough. For whatever reason, these emulators aren't that well optimized and they don't play games that great. Game Boy Advance does look significantly better now, and the aspect ratio is perfect. But again, Game Boy Advance always looks good on these things. This just so happens to have the perfect size screen for it. Because of this new update, none of the emulators have settings anymore, so you can't change the scaling or aspect ratio settings in any emulator. So they're all full screen, which in some cases, like Game Boy, means stretched to all hell. I trust that this was the best that we could get out of the PocketGo S30, but there's definitely emulators out there that run things a lot better. It does pass the Yoshi's Island test, which is a plus. Dreamcast has been slightly improved with this update. Power Stone 2 seems to run mostly fine, but Sonic Adventure 2 has some clock speed issues. The frame drops slow the game down dramatically. I guess some games are more graphically intensive than others. Even systems that run fine, like SNES, are scaled in such a weird way that the pixels look blurry. Maybe it's the fact that the screen is a low resolution and I'm used to the 640 by 480 screens that the RG350M and the Retroid Pocket have. I don't know. And that's just the whole problem with the PocketGo S30. You will just straight up have a better time playing these games on other devices. My favorites are still the RG350M and the Retroid Pocket 2. The RG350M might take a little tinkering for you to get the emulators to work good, but at least the settings are easily accessible. The RG350M doesn't do Dreamcast though. The Retroid Pocket 2 will pretty much run most things fine right out of the box. Plus, it can play N64 games. It's not the best at N64 or Dreamcast, but hey, it's better than the PocketGo. Where the PocketGo shines above all of these other emulators is its ease of use. This is something that I slam these other emulators for all the time, and it's got me in a weird spot right now. I hold user experience in such high regard, and I've been wanting one of these devices to just be put in my lap and work beautifully immediately with minimal tinkering. This is a rare occurrence where you can drop a PocketGo in my lap and it will just work, but it won't work beautifully. It might actually be worth it to do a little bit of homework on a different device, just so that you can have a smoother experience when you're actually playing the game. Gameplay is the most important thing. The UI on the PocketGo might be weird, but it's super simplified and easy to navigate, even if you do decide to leave the stock firmware on here, which I still wouldn't recommend. You should definitely update it. Also, it's significantly cheaper than other devices. I still think it's worth shelling out the extra couple of bucks to get games to run better. You can get the Retroid Pocket 2 for only $80. I think that's worth the $20 extra. And if the D-pad placement is what's selling you on the idea of the PocketGo S30, well, the RG350M solves that for you. There's a cheaper version called the RG351P that has a plastic body instead of aluminum that I haven't personally tested out because it's not that much different than this, but if you want to save a couple of bucks, that's a good option. Hell, I'd even recommend the RK2020, which is the same exact price as the PocketGo right now. Has the D-pad in the right spot, and it plays N64 games. The screen is also the perfect aspect ratio for Game Boy Advanced games. The only thing that should sell you on the PocketGo S30 is if you just don't want to f around. Because even though it makes you update the firmware yourself and it's not the best quality experience, it's still the simplest experience. If you just want an emulator and you just want to drag and drop your games on here and go, for $60, it'll be just fine. If you have a few minutes to spare for a better overall gaming experience, get something else like the RK2020 or the Retroid Pocket 2. I'll have a playlist over here that you can check out if you want to see reviews on all of these different devices, so you can see which one might be best for you. I'll also have links in the description below so you can purchase them all. Those links help support the channel. Thank you very much. You can get the Retroid Pocket 2 for cheaper if you just go straight to Retroid Pocket yourself, but I only have the Amazon link down there because that's the only one I can get an affiliate link for. Amazon prices are a little marked up for some reason. However, you will get the devices much easier and much more quickly from Amazon if you're willing to shell out that extra couple of bucks. If you want to get it straight from Retro Mimi or Retroid themselves, the shipping's going to be a while. You will save some money, just expect a little bit of a delay. Anyway, what do you guys think about all these different portable emulators? Are you interested yet? Guys, there are so many more of these devices that I haven't talked about. I refuse to talk about them if there's like small incremental changes. This one obviously is an exception because it's a freaking like an 8-bit Duke controller, but it's got a screen in the middle. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I try to only talk about them if they're doing something new, different, and cool. I don't know, maybe they'll implement this sort of file system into something like a Retroid Pocket or like an RG350, one of those series. That'd be nice. Anyway, what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Add me on Twitter. And all this other social media garbage. Of course, we got new videos here all the time, at least once a week. Make sure you subscribe for that. We also got youtube.com/WolfDenClips, youtube.com/WolfDenPodcast, and twitch.tv/WolfDen. A lot of clips from this video were taken from a live stream I did on twitch.tv/WolfDen, where I was streaming myself finagling with this device. I'll try to stream myself making these videos as much as I can. But of course, the most important thing and simplest thing that you can do to help support us is just subscribe to the channel. That helps. And make sure if you have the bell turned on, you're actually clicking on those notifications and slapping a like and whatnot. Or share this video with a friend. A friend who has maybe been thinking about getting one of these things, or maybe they just don't want to mess around too much. This thing might actually help them out. Thank you very much. Have yourself a good week.